Welcome to the Jann Arden podcast. We have amazing guests today. They are two powerhouses in the media world, Laura Brown and Kristina O'Neill. And they have co-authored a fantastic new book called All the Cool Girls Get Fired. Who has not been there? Laura is the founder of LB Media, the chair of Red's Creative Council, and serves on several major boards, including the Me Too movement. Previously, she was the editor-in-chief of InStyle magazine, executive editor of Harper's Bazaar, and senior editor of W magazine. Kristina is the head of Sotheby's Media and editor-in-chief of Sotheby's magazine. She is the former editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal magazine and executive editor of Harper's Bazaar. And she's done all this while balancing being a mom. Together, they've written this unbelievably smart, funny, and empowering guide to turning, career shitballs into comebacks. And a reminder that getting fired is not just it's not the end of the world. It's not failure. It's just part of the story. Please welcome Kristina O'Neill and Laura Brown. Welcome to the Jann Arden podcast.
What a heady introduction. Thank you.
Well, when I'm reading through this last couple of days, I'm going, my God, that's so impressive. So, of course, you guys have been in positions probably for the last 25 years of peril in the workplace. And maybe the obvious question, and it's not like you haven't been asked this 1,000 times already, but we need to ask it. What was the catalyst to you guys getting together and going, Kristina, we need to write a fucking book because this is something happening constantly and women need to be reminded. We go forward.
I love peril. You want to take it, Kristina? Because I'm just sitting here with peril and enjoying it so much.
Well, it was actually an Instagram post that kicked off this whole, what we hope is becoming a movement. I was fired 14 months after Laura had been fired from InStyle. And as all good friends do, when it happens to the other one, we went for drinks. Laura had the idea to post on Instagram a very cute picture of us with the caption, "All the cool girls get fired."
Sober idea. Let me just to be clear, on the way to the drinks, we came up with this. Carry on.
So that night we posted, the response was instantaneous. We were overwhelmed by the number of women who commented saying things like, "Oh my God, it happened to me. Me too. I've never admitted it. Oh, wow. You guys are owning it. Badasses, bosses, blah, blah, blah." And, we went to bed sort of like, oh, wow, gosh, look at all this. And I woke up the next morning and called Laura after, sleeping on it and said, this is a book.
That was 2.5 years ago. And even then, the ill winds were certainly circling in media because us getting, canned. I love shit canned is what I like to say, Jan. So I'm with you on the verbiage. No, we knew even then that the layoffs were starting to happen around us and it was becoming bigger than us. We could never have known that 2.5 years later we're in this position in the United States with just the absolute hundreds of thousands of people losing their job, be it via AI, the Trump administration. I'm sure in Canada at least the tech changes are so huge as well, right? So we knew that we could provide a service, and the service came from, in the first place, us just really owning it and being like, we're actually really good at what we do. And we got fired. And these two things more often than not coexist. Mm-hmm. You're not more often than not, you're not a failure if you got fired. You are part of a balance sheet, you're a number. So we urged everyone, we didn't have any shame in it and we didn't take it personally. And that's what we knew, along with all of the other tips and tools that we were trying to learn. We wanted to share in the book.
I think good things come out of bad things. And this is really the quintessential example of really crappy things happening and you guys being able to connect in a moment that is not planned. It's not premeditative. It stemmed from having a sense of just honesty with yourself and vulnerability of putting that out there. And all the cool girls do get fired. And well, the Kegels are part of what you can do if you get fired.
Whatever helps.
Cool Girls Doing Kegels is the follow-up book to the smash success. Cool Girls Doing Kegels. Caitlin, I'm going to throw it over to you because I've just dug a hole that I may never get out of again.
Okay, so I too am a member of the Cool Girls Who Have Gotten Fired fan club. Yep.
High
Truly.
five.
Yeah, love it. And it's funny because so I had been flipped onto your book because I shared this club membership with a good friend of mine, Meredith Shaw. Both of us were yeah, yeah. So both of us were
Love her.
previously in radio together at the same radio station, and then she went on to do TV. I stayed in radio. I got chick-handed in radio. She got chick-handed in TV. It was just a whole nice, fun bonding experience. But so she posts this, and it was interesting because her thoughts on the book were very similar to my thoughts after having read it, which is that it is so positive and empowering and practical. And so I'm just wondering if this is a place that you guys found yourselves immediately upon being let go? Like, did you arrive there right away? Or is this sort of, been a years long process for you? Because after I was let go, this is exactly what I was looking for. Because I didn't feel like overwhelmed emotionally. There was definitely some self-worth stuff that was being parsed out with my therapist after the fact. But overwhelmingly, I did feel like I want to do other things and I want to still feel excited. And like this is the beginning of a new chapter. It's not the end of the whole book altogether. So, like, did you guys get there quickly or how did that
We
journey go?
didn't know. We definitely did the hard yards because
Mhm.
we didn't know this stuff. Now we were sitting, there with dead eyes looking, and you guys have socialized healthcare, right? So you don't have the absolute healthcare shit show that we have to deal with. So we're sitting there looking on websites. I was in a position of having to start to pay for mine and my husband's healthcare. We're navigating all of this stuff that you just don't know. And it makes you feel, and we are by all descriptions, privileged, successful ladies, right? And felt extremely vulnerable in so many of these things that we didn't know how to handle and we didn't know how to set up. And we were going and Googling things. And Kristina would call me after she got fired. Do I need a lawyer? Who do I call? There's all of this stuff that we did have to navigate. I navigated for a year before Kristina was fired, and then she did. So all of it sort of became this cumulative learnings that we sort of had inside our heads by the time, that we did this Instagram post and that we knew. And again, we weren't thinking, oh, we're going to package it all up and going to make a book. It was a stupid Instagram post. But, so it's sort of a blend of this kind of sort of ownership, which we had immediately, like mentally, like it sucked and you have the wind knocked out of you and you don't know what you're going to do. But we both knew we were good. We didn't take it as an indictment on our skills, and we again urged
Yeah.
no one to do that. Um, but then we were like, okay, that's great that we know we're good, but we've got all this shit to handle now. And the immediate stresses that everyone has. Number one, we sort of chart them in the book like a terror alert. Like number one is money, number two is healthcare, number three is mental health, and how can we address all of those things so your best friend or your mom or whatever can give it to you then and there. So we've heard that a lot. We wish we'd had this. Or even before it came out, oh, can I please get an advance? Can I please, how can I get my hands on this?
It's
But what do you think we take it so personally? Anyone that loses a position, we immediately think we must be terrible. We don't know what we're doing. A lot of times it's not a reflection on the person that gets fired, but definitely the reflection on a person in leadership that either doesn't recognize how to nurture people and to get the best out of them, or a personality rub. And I think sometimes just not getting along with someone can cause you, it's not because you're not doing your job, it's just because you don't see eye to eye with a person. And that's kind of a hard pill to swallow. You can't push a rope and you can't make somebody like you. And you can't make people respect you if they don't respect you. So sometimes I feel like they're doing you a huge favor by splitting the sheets, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, I think a great example of that in the book is what happens to Oprah, right? I mean, she was fired because the men who worked with her just couldn't, didn't respect her, didn't have a lot of faith in her future at the network. And, I think she had the last laugh, but I think that was a just such a reminder that even someone as, well regarded and as hyped as she was when she started in Baltimore at that new job, she came in with, billboards all over town, bus, posters, et cetera, et cetera. And, at the end of the day, she just didn't gel with the, gentlemen who were, her co-anchors.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, of course you take it personally, even in a mass layoff, when there's, 7,000 of your colleagues, you're still going to sit there and be like, what did I do wrong? But unfortunately, in this era, when we are seeing huge percentages of companies having to make, these enormous, shifts in
Brutal.
personnel,
Yeah.
it isn't I would say in 98% of the cases, it's not personal. They're making entire decisions, like in Laura's case, to completely close a division. So it wasn't anything to do with her leadership. It was, something that was completely beyond her control. And I think that's the thing, we want to remind women is they're not alone. This is happening. It's a widespread, it's like an epidemic. And the sooner you identify what's happening and talk about it, then the more, the faster you're going to be able to get back up.
Yeah.
Has this opened up a whole new set of opportunities for both of you? I would imagine with a book of like this that has come out of the gate so strongly and really, like you said, resonated with tens of thousands of people and men too. I've seen comments from men going, I got canned too. Like
Right.
it's interesting to, to hear them not be afraid to pipe in and go, been there,
Yeah.
done that. But obviously the demand for, I would imagine, speaking to this and going in and lecturing and talking to people has opened up, a whole new realm of opportunity. So
We
yeah.
think it's very funny that neither one of us has ever read a self-help book, but we appear to have written one. So it's so crazy. We're like, oh, we're in the self-help. Okay. Or even the business section is just so funny to both of us for so many reasons. I think that, yeah, I think that what the gift of this is, the trust that so many women have placed in us. Even through the process of writing the book, we had women, we said, please write to our All the Cool Girls email if you have a story, and always women were unloading themselves. I've actually never admitted this, telling us all these stories, many of which we feature in the book. But even since then, in person, we've been out and about on tour, and even we were in DC a couple of weeks ago and we did a Vital Voices event, and DC is an absolute mess, obviously, because so many layoffs there. And probably the majority of women we talked to had lost their jobs. And just to be able to engage and have them trust you and have you, like, if anyone comes up to me and says, I'm a cool girl, I do a high five. And you can just see the disposition change. Just even in that moment, even you going back to your stress and whatever the stuff you got to deal with, just like you're in the club, you're cool, you know what you're doing, you're not alone. There's a whole world out there for you, but you've got to put up your hand. And to see the women who've really put up their hands has been an absolute thrill. And again, yeah, we're only like 3 weeks in, so we'll see.
No,
We'll see
it's
where it goes,
incredible.
ladies.
Yeah, my dad used to say, Jann, the worst marriages don't end in divorce, they don't end. And I used to think, well, I get that. And sometimes we all have found ourselves in positions where on our side of the fence, we're kind of going, I haven't been happy for a long time. I don't really know what I'm doing as far as my future or where I'm going to move to within the structure of this company. And I often think sometimes these things happen and it's sort of been in the back of your mind anyway.
Yeah.
Like if you
Yeah.
really take the time to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a chapter called Firing Yourself.
The best chapter, in my opinion. I loved it.
No, I mean, I think this is an opportunity to reframe work in general, not just getting fired. And, we talk a little bit about why, the corner office has to be the end game. And with work not, being so linear anymore, when people are taking on multiple opportunities, we live in a gig economy now where you can consult, you can have a part-time thing, you can be writing a book, you could be hosting, so many creative people, whether it's in media or other, entertainment industries, are, sort of doing multiple jobs. Why does the sort of like climb up a straight line ladder have to
Corporate
be
letter. Yeah.
the goal?
Can I read a tiny excerpt from this chapter that I saved
Oh,
for myself
go
this
on.
morning? I was a little bit into it. Remember, as we discussed at the beginning of this book, your job is not your identity. It is not your value, and your job never owned you. So the faster you separate yourself from it, the better. The only thing you were doing was lending your credibility, your value, and your talents to an organization. And the key word there is lend, not give. not own, you're lending. And you're like a book being returned to the library now. Someone who is more deserving of it can check the book out. So to bastardize Ice Cube, check out before you've been wrecked, before you're wrecked.
Most of
And
that is the brilliant Natasha Bowman. I will
yes,
claim the Ice Cube line. But no,
good on you.
It's the best comparison. You know,
Yeah.
and it does really hit that, you know, and it's like, no, it's yours. You are the book. You
Yeah.
are
And
the skills. You are the
you
knowledge. It's
you talked
yours.
about
And
that
you
ick.
say
The
again?
ick. You talked
Yeah.
about the ick in that chapter, like when,
Yeah.
and this is the idea for any of our listeners who don't know, like, sure, there's a lot about getting fired in this book, but there's also this idea of removing yourself from something that's not good for you. So can you guys talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of friends who are in jobs that they don't love, and they are the least exciting friends to go have dinner with because all they want to talk about is how miserable they are.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when we came to this book, we felt like it was really important to address, you know, I think there's sort of like an evolution, right? There's the sort of dog with the head out the window, which I think is how Laura would describe herself. She was in a job where
The
she
dog.
sort of saw the writing on the wall, had started fantasizing about what could come after. You know, she obviously didn't see the firing coming, but um, they're the people who, like me, like could have just stayed in the job forever, like had no plan, had no insurance policy, had not updated my LinkedIn, my resume, not downloaded a contact. I was so ill prepared when I got fired. It wasn't funny. And then I think there are people who hopefully will read this chapter and self-reflect and think about, like, is my job fulfilling me? Is this what I want the rest of my life to look like? And if I could take some ownership over the fact that maybe it's not the thing I always want to be doing, what can I do to put myself in a position so that I'm better off for it and take that leap?
I'd like to talk a little bit about ageism for women in particular. I think women are discovering more and more now because of social media, because of a sense of community with other women, all these conversations that are surrounding menopause and things like that, that women still feel like they get to a certain age and that's it. And I'd really like to get either of you, both of your takes on, you know, say you're 52 and getting fired or 55 and getting fired. I think a lot of women really find a heaviness in that, but you see examples in life all the time. Julia Childs didn't start cooking until she was 50. And we see these stories constantly. Grandma Moses was 80 when she started doing her first paintings. That may be a
She was a
reference that
grandma.
is lost. Yeah, it was Grandma Moses, exactly.
She was
But if
legit.
you could, yeah, if you can speak to, you know, whatever age you're at and how
Yeah.
that,
We think, you know, it's funny. We were just thinking about this. As you know, we work in media, and I think that whatever, as you age, your experience grows, what you know grows, your contact list grows, your references grow, your maturity grows. Like we don't tend to like put a lot of stock in it because it's just so, it's like, okay, this is like if you have the DNA for your job, you'll do well in your job. Like I think a lot of this sort of um like the shame thing we were talking about earlier, sometimes the age stuff is a lot in your head, like, oh, you know, I must have aged out. I must be too old. Well, you're not going to get,
yeah,
if you walk into an interview being like, oh, I'm probably too old, you know, if you're carrying that. I think if you're curious and you have experience, and again, we've all been working, like I was 47, I'm 51 now, so if I got fired now, you know, yes, it would, I'm not, because I bloody work for myself, but point being is all of this, all of you stand on all your experience. You know, sometimes you let that go in your head, and that's sometimes when you go, oh, maybe I've aged, but you're forgetting there are 30 years of experience that you've had in the workplace, right? Like since probably 20 years old, earlier than that.
yeah.
Like that's not nothing. And again, so much of this is a head game. So much of this is like what women place on themselves, what they, you know, how they feel. When the rest of the room, sometimes, like we say all the time, we would go to events afterwards thinking everyone's talking about us because we got fired. No one gave a shit. You know what I mean? Everyone's like interested in their own stuff. If the job is right for you and you project that and it is in your DNA, I think you'll get the job. Like but if you want to hire some 24-year-old social media manager, I'm gonna hope the 52-year-old lady ain't going for that. You know, and also understands that her skills and work can maybe propel her, like to what Kristina was saying, different sorts of work, and not necessarily the one that she'd been on the track on for years and maybe wasn't that fulfilled by. And we use an analogy in a book. It's kind of like becomes a sand pit you go to every day, right? And it gets a bit stinkier and stinkier, but you know the sand pit because you keep going there because that's what. And then you get fired and you realize there was a beach the entire time. You've been ritually going into this place. So much of it. But look, we also understand that like life is not a vision board. You know, you get fired, you've got money to think about, all those pragmatic things to think about. But while all that's going on, we have this sort of, and this does apply to women of all ages. Sort of the best advice that I think in the book is from the New York Times money columnist Ron Lieber, and he says, you know, everyone has, you know, if you have more money, you have more time. We all know that, you know, but everybody has a minute to think about. He says, think about what made you more happy and less happy over the course of your career. What can you do going forward to increase the happiness and decrease the unhappiness? And if you've got 30 years of experience, that's a lot to think about. And again, you might have to take a job the next day because you've got to pay the rent, of course, all those things. But just fire up that something in your brain that has been lying dormant. And you might be really surprised by what shows up. And again, where the workplace has shifted to allow you to do that.
It's mind-boggling to me how closely parallel what you're talking about applies to our personal relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm listening to you talking and I'm like, this could be a stagnant relationship of 20 years, 10 years, 30 years that you see that things you keep going into the swamps day after day and you don't see the beautiful resort hotel that's 100 feet away.
I love my
because you
sand
just-
pit is your swamp. I love it. Keep going.
Yeah, because you don't believe in yourself. You don't believe that you're worth it. And it does come down to an idea of self-worth. But I know Caitlin's got so many questions, so I'm gonna throw it over to you, Caitlin.
Well, I have sort of a very specific question, and it's to Kristina, because in your intro you mentioned that after being let go, you quote demanded the company pay for a tequila-soaked bye-bye bash. And I just want to know about this story specifically. I want to know more about that because it's not a clause I've ever seen included in like a separation agreement, but it is one that immediately pleased me.
Yeah, some people want to keep their computers. I wanted a party. Because I was one of one, right? So I was the only one leaving and my team stayed. And I wanted closure. I wanted to have that moment where we could acknowledge, where we could come together and acknowledge the great run we had, you know, and I think the fact that, you know, we got to expense it was even better. I hope it would have happened either way, but it was fabulous that it was an expensed engagement. No, but I think it was really important for me to be able to thank them and for them, you know, it was a big moment for everyone. And we did all, the band kind of disbanded after that. You know, my leaving then had knock-on effects over the course of, you know, there's still impacts from my leaving. And I was really blessed that we were able to kind of have that like one last throwdown and like cry and laugh and take a lot of pictures and share a lot of memories.
Do you think that party gave you some added closure?
For sure.
Yeah. Because I do think that there is such a missing piece, obviously, in the way that people are let go, considering the fact that, as you've outlined in this conversation and in your book, that we are kind of living in a layoff era. So it is going to happen to a lot of people.
Taylor's layoff era.
It is. We're in a layoff era. And part of it is that, you know, I was let go and I was a public facing figure, right? Because I was on the air and on the radio. So people listened to me. So I would release my own, sort of statement. I posted about it on Instagram. And I was in a uniquely nice position because then I received all this positive feedback from listeners. And I was just inundated with comments and messages. And very few people receive that kind of validation when they're let go from a job that isn't public facing. And, you know, they're let go over a Zoom call.
Yeah, it's like eulogies.
Yeah.
You're still alive.
Yeah. And so I do think that, you know, it's a strange thing to say, but
yeah, I think it's really important. Whatever closure looks like, I think it's necessary.
I think companies need to do that. The Zoom goodbye and then you skulk off into the night isn't good.
No, but again, a lot of that comes from like, yes, I mean, you were billboard fired. We were billboard fired, like press release, public media fired. So people do learn about that fast and they come back to you. But even like if you're fired from Starbucks, like you've got to admit it because then people will write you these things and people will show up, but they won't if they don't know.
Yes.
And so like I found that hugely comforting, that sort of the eulogies while alive part, people telling me how just terrific I was, and on that first day when I'm like sitting on the bed trying to, field all this stuff like an hour after we all got laid off. So there is a real sort of beauty in that. And you take all of it on, and it does kind of fluff you up a bit
And I think it's good
before
for
you've
the
got to go and
team.
check your
My
bank balance.
team wrote they all took a beautiful blank book and everyone wrote a page, and it was kind of like a yearbook, and it was that like moment for them to just sort of like say one nice reflection. And that for me, I mean, I keep this book like it's literally like next to my bed. You know what I mean? It is
Yeah.
something that took me a minute to be able to read it, to be fair. I couldn't, like, it's not like I
Yeah.
went
Oh,
home that
God.
night, but I'm really happy it exists.
How would you reconcile when you're not afforded the luxury of saying the goodbye and getting the closure? Have either of you had that type of experience where like you're not in control of it? I gave 30 days notice and was locked out of my email in the middle of a meeting, right? So it was a very
Yeah.
different experience for me.
No, we were canned then and there. We were canned at the end of the day. We were,
Okay.
we were cut off, blah, blah, blah. So no, we were texting going, does anyone know how to download contacts? Like that sort of stuff. And then you're all just like beetles on their back going, I don't know, Brian,
Yeah.
does Brian know? But that's okay, because you kind of, if you're all, that is one silver lining of being in a group, is that you can try and help each other. And then we tried to like HR each other like for a while. I knew I wasn't going to work for anyone ever again. Didn't know I was going to do that as soon as I was. But I was, spent my time trying to get my assistant a job and this and that and the other. And I think that you are bonded by that.
Yeah.
I just want to address this just really quickly, and it may not have anything to do with your experiences in particular, but anger and revenge.
Oh.
Walk into a bar.
I don't know. I just, I just, I think initially, like anything else in life, that's those stages that we go through. So can we talk a little bit about that? Like,
Please.
did that exist? Like, I'm going to fucking put a burning shit on your stoop, and when you go to stamp the flames out, you're going to have shit all the way up to your chin. Like,
That does not
I don't
legally
know.
exist, but
We
that
do
a
not
Billy
recommend that in
Madison?
the book, but
I'm just saying this. I've worked for
Man, you
myself
do
for
you.
decades too. Exactly. But I'm just saying, I think in
Schadenfreude,
relationships
you
and
mean?
things like that, I felt, kind of vengeful. I'll get you. I just want to put that out there. Like, those feelings there at all?
I think it depends on how much. Look, what we say, sometimes it's great to have your friends go like, fuck them, they suck. Da, 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 da. Like, your immediate outside friends, so they can be your worst self.
Perfect.
Because like burning bridges, all that, because it is a long game and things come around.
Okay.
Look, I mean, I think whatever feels right to you. But I think one time, if you are angry and all that, which we all are in that moment, but you have to really reconcile how much power you're giving to them while feeling those feelings, and how much you're letting them still loom over your psyche. And that's where and to remember where your power is, and you're the library book, and you're going to go after the other library and kind of screw them. God, what do they say? God bless their hearts, like that's
Yeah.
fine. That I think that is where more strength comes from in the long game. But yeah, you can fantasize about stuff. Your friends can do that on your behalf, like all of that. That's like
yeah.
fun in the moment. It's certain, but
That's
we
what
don't recommend that for your
friends
work
are
friends
for.
either.
Yeah.
You can't keep like the group chat about like, oh my God, and in the meeting when you've all left, you've all been fired, and then someone's still talking about it. It helps nobody.
Yeah,
It's really
bitterness does
bad.
not behoove anyone, for sure. I think outwardly it just is not great. It's so nice to be able to walk away with your shoulders back and your head up,
Oh,
and let your friends do the shit talking. I totally agree with that. Like, have some kind of a thread where you're just like, God, his suits were so terrible, or
and
something.
then leave that when it doesn't serve you. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
that sort of, I use a terrible analogy, but it's like picking a scab. It's disgusting, but you know what I mean. You're never gonna
Yeah.
heal up.
Proudest moments of what you guys have unleashed through, that simple conversation and affirmation about being fired, and having it kind of be a cool thing. It's fascinating book, and I think you've opened this conversation is so much bigger than you guys probably thought, and you must be really proud of yourselves. Like, it's such a neat phoenix rising out of the ashes moment. I love it.
Kristina, you want to go?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think the most rewarding part has just been connecting with all the women who, didn't have the words, the courage, the strength, and this book is sort of filling a gap in the conversation. We've met a lot of people who've said it's a shortcut. They've read it. They're now owning what happened to them. And, just having that dialogue with women who've been through it has been really wild,
Yeah.
because whether it's Oprah, Lisa Kudrow, me and Laura, or all the women that we're connecting with, like everyone in that moment felt the same. And I think that the universal, sort of like taking back the power from something like this has been really meaningful.
The rebranding of the entire experience.
Yeah.
We had a woman write to us on LinkedIn, and she ran a giant. She was inspector general of a huge government department, and she was dozed. She was one of those doge layoffs that happened in one line, earlier in the year, and huge job, huge job. And she said, yes, this happened to me. It really rocked me. I'd attached myself to it. I'm now starting my own consultancy. And then she signed her name, and then underneath it she wrote "Cool Girl." That. It's just that complete switch,
Yeah.
of just owning it and moving on and getting your swag back, and steering your own course, and all of that. Even a woman the other day, she was like, "Oh, I got laid off and I had this sort of bad boyfriend, and so I wasn't really focused on that. And I broke up with him, and then I read your money chapter and I realized I could apply for unemployment retroactively, and I just got a few $1,000s because, like, just this ownership back and this power back. Anytime we hear that, that is the greatest thrill.
I think what you amazing women have done is remove shame from the experience. And that's the word that really comes to the forefront of my thinking is the removal of shame. And we all need that because it's a useless feeling. It serves nobody. And so good on you because God, if we can lift that from that important part of our careers and and as we make our way forward, that's gold. And that's something you can hang hopes on. And that's something you can rebuild from with the absence of shame. So listen, we've had you for 32 minutes. I think we were supposed to do 30, but I can't thank.
Let's live.
Wild and
Let's
crazy
do a
times.
2-hour. Let's break it down.
Extra, 2 minutes extra.
Let's do a 17-minute reading from chapter 5.
Okay.
Kristina, Laura, all the cool girls get fired. And you got to read this book. I thank you very much for being on the podcast today on behalf of Caitlin and Sarah and myself. Yeah,
you guys are
we're
cool.
just
yes.
Well,
this was so much fun.
We're all kind of the girls are kind of coming from firings, layoffs, trying to create new things, and I'm the matriarch of our group, so I'm constantly reminding them that things are going to be okay. God damn it,
that's right.
And but thank you so much. You guys are you really are cool, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
And stay in touch, guys. This was so awesome. Thank you so much.
We will be following
Stay
along,
cool.
and I'm looking forward to the second installment of kicking ass and taking names. I don't know if you're looking for book titles, but
yeah, we're looking forward to a nap, but then
yeah,
because we're aging.
No, when you have a successful book, there's so many things that start happening, and I know it's time consuming and kind of draining, but there's a lot of excited women that are so thrilled to see you and hear you speak. So carry on, and
our best to
we'll see you again.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about the Blue Jays. I love them.
Oh,
thank you.
That means so much.
Too soon? Is it too soon? Okay.
You know
No,
what?
it's not too
They're
soon.
kind of cool girls when you think about it.
Good reframe. Good reframe.
Amazing.
Thank you for writing that book, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for writing it.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jann Arden, Sarah Burke, Caitlin Green. That was a great conversation, and it makes sense. And you made a good point in that conversation, Caitlin, about the Blue Jays, who we have all kind of had a few days to gather our hearts back up off the floor and, just have that collective sigh of relief. But they are essentially, like you said, Caitlin, cool girls facing disappointment and failure.
They're the cool girls of sports. And I think that yes, it has been heartbreaking because they came so close, because they're such a great team. But I heard, and I'm forgetting his name now, but he is a 44-year ESPN sports like veteran. And he was saying how he thinks that they've really changed the way teams are going to structure themselves and play baseball right now. This has been an amazing lesson. They were by far the beloved team in this series, even for people watching in the US. They have rallied a whole new group of fans behind baseball, knowing that little kids watching get to grow up watching a team like this.
Why, Caitlin? I'm just going to have you explain that a bit.
Because they are such a team that
They show the brotherhood.
The brotherhood, the friendship, and they've all spoken so publicly about their affection for one another. Ernie Clement is one of the star players.
Today.
Oh, dope. Yeah, so Sarah's gonna cry now.
Oh my God.
But like they talk about how much they really how much they care about each other. And the coach talks about how special the team is. And everyone talks about how special the team is and the connection they have on the field, the support they have. Vladdy, who's like this longtime veteran, saying that if anyone gets nervous tonight, look over at me. And acknowledging everyone's role in getting them there, right? Because there's always going to be star players on every team. But to make the new players feel really included, to have someone like Trey Savage, who's a 22-year-old rookie making $57,000 a year, come out. I can't keep track of how many inspiring things there are about this team. And so I think it's a great tie-in to our previous conversation, because they are going to take this win that they've had. They're still ALDS champions. They still made it to friggin' Game 7 of the World Series. They have $100 million.
Unbelievable. And a tied game. It couldn't have been more
unbelievable.
Equal. They were as good as the Dodgers, and this was just a numbers game. Had they played 10 more games, that pendulum would have kept swinging back and forth.
And they're of course they're well matched except for in their budget. I mean, the Dodgers have $100 million difference in everything that they spend money on. So, we were the Goliath and to the David of the Dodgers. And so everyone loved us. We might not, the Jays might have lost the World Series, but they won everyone's hearts. And they're all saying run it back for 2026. They're not looking at this going oh, boo-hoo. Of course they're disappointed. They're let's go. And I like that energy. And that was really the energy of Kristina and Laura that they had when they were let go. And I sort of piggybacking off of that energy to say, yep, feel it. It hurts. It sucks. But let's go forward. We've had an amazing, amazing season of baseball, a crazy playoff series to get to watch. And I wish there was a parade for them now. I'd go. I would go along.
Oh God, the whole city would go to that parade.
We love
Do
them.
you think, you would have a sense of this? Do you think it made Americans look at Canada in a kinder light and kind of saw what Canadian spirit was all about? To me, I was just I think this is such a cool opportunity for someone in, Florida or North Carolina, or someone who's watching the World Series going, Canada, I just think it was such a great example of what it is to be Canadian.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like the kinder light thing has always been there for us Canadians, but I think that there may have been a yearning for what we have, for sure.
Okay, so I was just going to hit on that. 100% that, because I was reading some of the Instagram posts from the wives and girlfriends of these players. And obviously they're not all, they're not Canadian. Most of them are coming from the US, and they were previously with US teams.
But they're based there.
But they talk about coming here. They talk about coming here and being in Canada and being part of this team and why it was so special. And they all said from the minute we got here, we just felt different. We loved it. They loved the city. They loved the country. They loved the fans. They loved the team. They loved everything about being here. And I do think, and I've heard, it's retired players who are sports commentators now, but talk about how that is the dream of a player, is to play on a team like that and to feel the way that these players feel about each other. So I do think they're probably envious of it. And they've even acknowledged it, though. I forget the name of the Dodgers player, but he has been out with a serious family matter. So he's been out on leave. His number is 51. And I think it was in Game 6, they all wore 51 drawn on their hats. The Jays did, as a show of solidarity. And they just said, everyone watching this just said, these are exceptional guys. This is sportsmanship at its very best. And what an amazing thing to see in the middle of really cutthroat competition, that they still took time to acknowledge that they had a player on the opposing team who was going through something personal.
And how about Vladdy showing up with the women's hockey jersey? Mary, come on. Such class acts.
So many stories. So many
it's
stories.
pretty impressive.
Mhm.
But I just know the sadness was palpable.
Mhm.
You know, when they lost. I mean, right now I have a blue jay at my bird feeder. Hi. It
Hi.
looks just like the little hat.
Monday, or
Hi,
not, sorry,
guys.
Saturday morning, a blue jay landed on the fence in mom and dad's backyard, and I had slept over from the game on Friday night to watch Game 7, and my mom's like, "That's a positive omen. Look, we have a blue jay."
No, I mean, hope grows eternal. And I think it all
Yeah.
teaches us about competition and being a class act. I thought the Dodgers were very classy winners. I thought they complimented the
Yes.
Jays, the organization. I felt like they said this was the best team in the fucking world. Like this could have gone any way. They spoke so genuinely kindly of,
Mhm.
even though they were affected by the camaraderie of our team. They looked at them
Yes.
like, we can rip a page out of that book. We don't have to be like famous, the richest player in baseball guy. We can have some humility and still benefit from, being on an award-winning, well, not an award-winning, but the team that
The
won the
winning
whole
team, yeah.
goddamn thing.
Mhm.
Why is
Yeah.
it called the World Series? My nephew asked me that. He's like, Auntie Jen, why is it the World Series when it's not the world?
It should
So,
be the North
some,
American series.
yeah. I
Why
said, I
is
don't know.
it
I will ask the
called
girls.
World Series? Let's see. The World Series is because the first official championship in 1903 was dubbed the World Championship Series, a name that was later shortened. At the time, the United States was the only country with major professional baseball leagues, so the name reflected the perception that the championship between the two American leagues would be the best in the world.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
It's really, they're
No,
saying it's like
I knew
marketing.
there was there's no world involved.
No.
There is a World Baseball Classic coming up, and my Japanese girlfriend, Natalie Wakabayashi, whose entire family is into the baseball, has played baseball, that is coming up in March 2026.
Baseball's huge in Japan. Baseball is huge in Japan.
No kidding. If it wasn't
We
for,
got to watch some of those players. Oh my God.
I was going to say, if it
can't
wasn't
wait.
for Japan, I don't know how the Dodgers would have done without,
Thank you. Yeah.
without Yamamoto.
Well, wasn't the MVP one of the Japanese members? The
Yeah. But between
Well,
Yamamoto and
and
Shohei Ohtani, the one hilarious question that came in the media scrum after, which was to Shohei from an influencer, actually. I think her account is Baseball Baddies. She said, would you rather face Ohtani as a pitcher or as a runner?
Well,
So
and it's funny because seeing a dual player like that. So Jan, he's a pitcher and he goes to bat.
no,
Like,
I watched some of it. He's so impressive even as a batter.
oh my
It's
gosh.
crazy.
I remember Kyle commenting while we were watching it that he's, it's rare that you see a pitcher on the mound have dirt on his pants because he just finished batting and he slid into a base and now he's back on the mound. Like Ohtani was incredibly lovable to watch. And he kind of has just a nice way about him, like a very sweet looking face. And he just seems like a nice, classy guy.
no more dancing. No more dancing.
Yeah, I don't love that. I don't need more dancing. But anyways.
All right.
Noted. But anyways, I think it's great. They're the cool girls of baseball and we love them. And I'm just going to throw it out there. If there was a parade, I think a lot of Toronto would go.
Yeah.
I just want to, sticking to our theme today with all the cool girls get fired, with Laura and Kristina, and do go out and grab that book. I'm pretty sure it's on Audible and Kindle. It's at your libraries if you want to rent it. If you are someone who has gone through that, or has a partner that's gone through that, or a child that has gone through a firing, or even a big breakup, I'm telling you, there's valuable kind of lessons of how to carry
100%.
yourself through those difficult times.
100%.
And look at these girls, like from a random comment, it turned into something really big. So don't underestimate the little things that happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't underestimate conversations that happen over a cup of coffee with a girlfriend about, starting a business or having a creative idea.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever think these are just idle, oh, it was nothing, we just were talking about blah, blah, blah.
Every
Don't
ending
do
is
that.
a beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't do that to yourself. Going back to years ago, Arlene Dickinson and I, Caitlin, worked on a podcast that we had called The Business of Life. And Arlene and I had gone for dinner. And Arlene actually said to me, we need to do a podcast. She goes, I love our conversations at dinner. We always talk about cool things.
Yeah.
And so and of course, Caitlin was involved in that as a producer from the get-go. And, here we are. This is kind of
A spinoff.
when things kind of didn't, continue on with Arlene and I had to rethink kind of what I was doing, and Caitlin needed to rethink what she was doing. And so I'm kind of living proof of, kind of modifying and changing your approach to things.
Yeah, and the incredibly talented, media executive who sort of first paired me with you, Jann, he was let go. And then he started his own consulting company. So it's like, I started to realize the longer, because I was at Bell for, 14 years. And so the longer I was there, I think I started watching people who I really, really admired and looked up to, and who were the shining example of the tippy top of the pyramid that you could get to. I watched them get let go. So I really was like, oh, well, it's just truly happening to everyone in the case of my specific industry, that it just felt that it was inevitable, and that it wasn't personal. But I still think a lot of people, they do experience, as you pointed out, and I think the best part about this book is the reframing of shame, not feeling shame, of reframing it, of rebranding it. And there's a lot of power in that, in not hiding and saying, hi, we made a difficult decision that I'm no longer with this, instead of trying to position it and come up with this big PR spin, to just be like, yeah, I was part of a 7,000 person layoff, or whatever happened to you. And just owning it and being honest, because then you really can move on, because it's not a reflection of anyone's talent. I would say 99% of the time I saw it happen to people, and I was like, damn, that person was so friggin' good. I can't believe it. But it's just, it's just the way, it's our layoff era, guys.
In the era where you can own your narrative in whatever way you want, right? Like you doing your own posts. I remember when my shit hit the fan, I was like, oh, I have a podcast. I can do an episode on literally what happened to me. And it's uncomfortable for a couple weeks for sure. I remember walking a dog that I was dog sitting in the neighborhood, at 10 a.m. when you're normally at work, right into your second meeting, and being like, okay, now I go to the gym with the moms who've dropped off their kids, and I don't really know what I'm doing with my life, and having no idea what was next.
And you're not always supposed to have, you're not always supposed to know what's next.
Oh, yeah.
And then fast forward 3-4 years later, it's like, I didn't even know what was going to happen. And Caitlin, I know a lot of your pieces you're like a year behind my stuff that I kind of went through, I think. How do you feel now? It's been just, like a year and a half?
Yeah, has it? Yeah. Has it been 2 years? It's 2
2
years.
years
February.
will be in February.
It's 2 years in February. Oh my God. It feels longer. It honestly feels like it's been a lot, much longer amount of time, to be honest with you. I think because I look back at so much of, what's changed in media, I think it has just continued on the same thing that I immediately felt was the lack of personalization, and the fact that I've seen it happen to so many people, and Meredith Shaw being such a close friend of mine, and having been let go from the TV show that she was on, again, in part of just random unceremonious layoffs that happen at all of these companies now.
That was shitty.
Yeah, because you're in the public eye, right? And there, there's a lot of other things tied to it. And I think especially when you're public facing, and when you've made it to a certain success level in your life and in your career, it's impossible to say to yourself, oh, this isn't tied up into some of my identity. You do have to pick that apart. The advantage I think I had was that I had been on mat leave. And so I think that I had discovered a huge new part of my life that existed completely separately from my job. And so I immediately was like, well, still got the best kid in the world. I still have my really great.
I think you did see the silver lining.
100%. I was like, oh, boo-hoo, I get to spend mornings with my kid for a while.
And so did you, Sarah. Here you have the Women in Media Podcast Network.
I know.
It came from a difficult place in your life. What do I do? And how do I not work for somebody else? And it hasn't been without its challenges.
For sure.
It's a huge financial undertaking. And how many podcasts are on this network now?
20 in 2 weeks.
So for shit's sakes, people. And and it is about risk and reward.
I also I feel relieved because it's funny. I get like reached out to by people who I'm friends with in media when they're let go, and I'll go for drinks with them, or people will reach out
You're
to
the
me
authority now.
a little bit, like to an extent, for sure. And people will reach out to me, or if they're like super unhappy in their job, but they're afraid of being let go, even though they don't even really like their job that they have. And so they're always like, you seem like good. And I'm like, I am good. I really enjoy my life. And I think that if I was to work for someone else again, I would have an entirely different perspective on it. And I just felt, I don't know, you feel so like, I guess just happy with your life the way that it is away from work. That's really just becomes the focus. And so I just feel that.
It's an opportunity to find more happiness in work too. And like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of talk about like the toxic environments in that book, right? Which we're going to
Mhm.
link to in the show notes. And by the way, if you're part of our book bag, who knows? I think for next book bag, I was saying I want to like donate my choice to our Only Jans, and like we'll do a vote or something.
Yeah.
So maybe that's one of the contenders, because I think this book, I read like certain chapters, but I haven't read it in full yet. And
Well, I'm halfway through Elves in Love.
okay,
Fairies in Love.
I know.
I'm more than halfway now, and shit is happening.
Let me cross my legs.
So anyway, I'm not going to say about. Listen, we don't. I want to just take the last few minutes of the show to talk about a friend of mine
Sure.
who passed away. Neil McGonigal passed away a few days ago. And for those of you listeners who have been following along with us this past year or so, I've spoken about Neil and working with him as my very first manager back in the 80s and the early 90s.
Oh, this
And
is who it is.
Neil was very responsible for, picking my sorry ass out of nightclubs when I was just drinking a lot, and I was very hit and miss, and singing cover tunes and jazz songs, and once in a while I'd put in one of my own tunes. Anyway, Neil and I worked together for probably a decade in the early days, and that wasn't
Yeah.
the fun part. That was out there rolling our sleeves up, traveling around, trying to get record deals, making demos, working nightclubs. But he had some health issues, and I think he was 78. I think Neil was born in 1946, but Neil McGonigal, I'm so glad
I was going to
that
say.
in the last 4 or 5 months that he and I mended fences. We hadn't seen each other for 25 years. And, we parted ways, after those 8 or 9 years of working together, and it wasn't great. And neither of us spoke to each other, and this doesn't seem like an opportunity. And then I have to hand it to Neil. A mutual friend of ours had passed away, and I had phoned Neil and just said how sorry I was. And then he extended, like, let's go for coffee. And I was so nervous about going.
That was about a year
And-
ago, and you asked our listeners for advice on if you should go or not. I remember this.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Me
and we spoke for,
Yeah.
hours. And the last, he gave me a hug and he said, I love you, Jan. And I said, I love you, Neil. And we talked about so many things, and he showed me so many clips that he had of me from early days that I was just like, what? Oh my
Also
God.
a cool
he
girl
always-
that got fired.
Yeah, Neil was, we
Yeah.
parted ways. But anyway, we were supposed to get together. We're recording this on the 3rd of November, but we were supposed to get together on the 1st or 2nd. So, and he just said he wasn't feeling great. And then Russ, my guitar player, had let me know that he'd passed away. But yeah, I'll tell you what, if you have an opportunity to mend a fence and to make things right, you just don't know where life is going to take you. And I had a lot of peace in my heart. He had a really good life. It wasn't tragic. He knew for, I think, quite several years that, his health was, precarious at best. And he was very open about it when we had coffee that day a year ago. Like, he spoke very openly about it and the challenges that he was facing.
Yeah.
But, I'm so glad
I'm so
that
glad you
he
did
gave
too.
me the opportunity to meet him and have coffee. And yeah, so I feel very peaceful about it. I think had he passed away where we were still sort of living, I would have been devastated. And I'm not. I have a lot of joy in my heart. And for the work that we did together, and we were a team, and we got, I'm sitting here talking to you guys because of Neil. And
That's so nice.
he was very, very, very important to me in my career. And like I said, he just plucked me out of the mire.
Yeah.
And was absolutely steadfast in his belief in my ability and my songwriting ability. And he just Anyway.
A case for
Safe
forgiveness.
safe travels, Neil McGonigal, and thank you so much for everything you did for me. And my very best to his family, his partner Beth, who I'm sure are just, not terribly sad right now, and to all his friends, and to a music community that he nurtured, and all the musicians and singers and songwriters that he's mentored over the years. I'm sure it's a big blow to them as well. So anyways, safe travels, Neil, and thanks for everything.
No, this is like therapy today. I'm not
No,
kidding.
I'm like,
I don't even know where
because
to go.
it reminds me of the conversation we were having again with Laura and Kristina, where we're talking about closure, and that really is the value of closure. That like bad things can happen in life, and things that are sad will happen, but if you have some closure at the way it all went down and was handled, then I think that's really valuable, sort of as you progress along emotionally. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's made all the difference. I wasn't shocked to hear him passing away,
Yeah.
and but I had a lot of peace in my heart, and I had a smile on my face. I don't mean to be, I'm not cheery. I'm sad that, but I just feel relieved, and I'm sure he did too. I mean, who knows? Maybe he hung around long enough to have that time with me and to fix that. I have to hand it to him.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Would you like
But
to
it's
end with
weird
some
to read.
voice
It's
notes?
weird to read through a message, an iMessage thread of conversations from a few days ago. Maybe we can get together on Monday or Tuesday. Like, it's so freaky.
Yeah,
is
that
freaky.
is. That is really, yeah.
And I sent him an "I love you" in a text. I knew he was
Oh.
gone, but I texted his number, his name and his phone number, and I just said, "I love you, Neil." And it was, kind of choked me up.
That's really,
I
you know,
thought-
Jan's that's really common. I've listened to a lot of podcasts and stuff on grief, and a lot of people do that. And some family members don't have the heart to shut off their loved ones' phones, where they want that, or they don't want to shut off their voicemail. They sort of keep it there. So yeah, that's actually.
No, I
that's
just
quite-
did. I thought there's something about the unconscious self, and I feel like we vibrate on a whole different level. And I figure if shit can go into the cloud, my "I love you, Neil" can
Go in the cloud.
can go up to wherever he is, and he can feel that electronic message. But
Yeah, the
it's
literal
funny
cloud.
what we do. It's funny what we do
Yeah.
to communicate these last final things. But
Yeah.
anyway, yes, voice notes. Let's see what we got.
Okay, here we go.
Good morning, Jan, to Thordis and to Poppy. My name's Cindy, and I'm calling because not only do I and my fiance Michelle absolutely adore everything that makes you you, she absolutely watches your podcast daily. I get nightly updates. I was just wondering how I could go about maybe Jan on getting you to give her a shout out. She
Oh, we
talks
know where
about
this is
wanting to
going.
do it all the time, but just hasn't. And I really would love to make that happen for her if maybe you could.
We're doing it right now.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And P.S. We saw you in Moncton. We were front row, and you kicked ass. Your speech was boss. So, yeah, thank you so much for coming to the East Coast and just inspiring and motivating and empowering so many women. Thank you. And I couldn't be happier for you.
I was hoping
Okay,
you'd
have
get
a
to that.
wonderful day.
We're giving a shout out to you right now, dear listener.
I was just going to say, you also have a link that people can go to, which we'll put in the show notes, where you record things for special people. Talk about that for a sec.
Yeah. Go, you talk about that.
I don't remember what it's called.
What, Cameo?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Jan does cameos all the
Cameo.
time.
Well,
and the
we
money
don't want to
doesn't go
charge them $99, but you're getting a shout out right now because she's going to be watching this on YouTube. So guess what? You made it onto the podcast. Your partner loves you. You came and saw me in Moncton. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being awesome. And we appreciate our listeners so much. You have no idea.
Okay, one more.
Okay.
Hello, girls. This is Billy calling from the lower 48, but I don't think there are any borders tonight. It's Saturday night. I've just listened to a nice version of O Canada, and I want to wish the Toronto Blue Jays great luck. I'm really rooting for them. I think everybody
Aw.
in North America is. I know that's your team. Sarah, you have to be a nervous wreck, but they're going to do it. I wish you all luck, and it's great fun. Go Canada.
Love that.
What a great way to end the show. You know what? The whole of North America is cheering for you guys.
Sure.
Listen, we talked about that, and we think that's true as well. We think people totally got into the spirit of what sportsmanship is and teamwork is, and that you don't have to be making $52 million a year to frickin' strike out a record number of people in a Major League Baseball game. But anyway, that's our show for today. You can leave voice notes by going on to the Jann Arden Pod website.
Yep.
And it's really easy. You literally click the button and
It's a
you
microphone.
can ask us anything. Yeah, it looks like a little microphone. And you can make comments. You can give a shit. You can tell us that
Do not take a shit on the voice notes.
Absolutely not.
Don't take a shit on the voice notes. No, but it would make for an interesting
No, you'll be
show.
banned. You'll be banned.
You'll be banned. You'll be
But
at least shadow banned.
Yeah.
Let us know what you thought of our guest today. I feel like
Yes.
that
Yeah.
conversation really resonated
Have you been
with...
fired? Let us
Yeah,
know.
tell us the story. You got 2 minutes, though, so keep it concise.
Yep.
And
Or you can leave 4 stories in a row. So we
Yeah.
don't know if we'll play them all, but thank you for listening. Patreon, we're going to be talking about Sarah's boyfriend a little bit. We're going to be talking about my tour coming up and kind of what that looks like.
I
We're
want to
gonna
talk
be
about something
talking-
specific called grim keeping.
Grim keeping.
Okay, there you go.
We learn a new word in Patreon every week with
Mm-hmm.
Caitlin, so come
Yeah.
for that.
But yeah, thanks for listening. If you're not a Patreon member, what a great Christmas gift. $5 a month, $7 if you want to join the book bag. You can find out all about that on the Jann Arden podcast webpage. And we would love to see you. We would love to have you. Our goal is to have, 20,000 Patreon members someday. We don't know if that'll ever happen, but a girl can dream.
Yeah.
But thanks for listening. Caitlin, Sarah, as always, you're kicking ass. Thanks to our guests today and Laura and Kristina and their great book. You can find all that information in the show notes. We will see you next time. All the cool girls get fired. Toodly-doo.